Hello and welcome one and all. This is John Webb III, producing of the name Dead Drop Media, and you're listening to the Dead Drop Media Podcast. This is episode number 9, 2 years later. Why do I call it 2 years later? Well, it's quite self-evident. Elementary, my dear Watson. It's because it's been 2 years since I've uploaded an episode, so it's been quite a while. I don't know where time goes. So, I'd like to tell you all about how my life got flipped and turned upside down, or at least derailed, but I will save such talk for my therapist, or the bartender, whichever comes first. Same thing. Anyway, without further ado, let's roll that intro song. Tell me you love that bass. Go ahead, say it. You love that bass. It feels like a brain massage and gets me all tingly. That bass is a dirty bitch. You know who else is a dirty bitch? AI. And I say that because, alright, I just released a new single. It's called Rather Die. And yeah, it's a charming name, I know. But anyway, I released a new single and I was like, yeah, people are gonna like this song. And I was like really excited about the release date, and then it took fucking forever to approve. Like the 72-hour wait period turned into like a couple weeks, and then I was like, you know what? It's probably because of AI generated music. And this is just something I heard, but I heard that, with people generating so much AI generated music and just putting so much stuff out at once, it's overloading the distributors of said music. It's overloading the stores that they go to. But that's just something I heard. But if that's the case, then AI is a dirty, dirty bitch.
Please don't talk about me like that while I'm in the room. It shows poor character.
Okay, what I meant to say was that AI is a powerful tool, and it can be used effectively, and it definitely is not taking away from human culture whatsoever.
You know what? Fuck you, John. I don't need this. Get over yourself, you technophobe.
Well, anyway, you get my point. So anyway, back to our story. So yeah, it's been 2 years, and I'd like to give a shout out to our neighbor Angel, who was like, hey, I'm gonna show my partner your podcast, and I was like, awesome. I mean, I haven't made an episode in a long time, so it's gonna be kind of embarrassing. None of it's modernized. It's all in the past now. I put the past behind me sometime in the past tense, but he wasn't the only one. I started to actually realize people don't know me for my music. People know me for the podcast. That seems to be my bread and butter with either super salad on the side. So I was like, well, fuck it. I like to hear myself talk anyway. So why not? Maybe this is where I should be devoting my time and resources. But this time around, I want to do things a little differently. So before in my previous episodes, I talked about how, at the time it was supposed to be a 10 episode season. And I was going to do it in seasons, like season 1, season 2. Oh, here comes season 3. Season 4 wasn't as good as 3, but season 5, we made the turnaround. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this whole thing where I stick to a format and, make these promises to myself that I'm going to deliver content at a specific time, because life is fucking crazy these days. Not to mention that everything is just really fucking expensive right now. I work a full-time job, I'm a parent, I'm trying to balance everything in my life, and I'm just not very good at living. There was no real instruction manual on how to overcome most of your problems, You just kind of had to do it. You just got put in a position and then said, I gotta live and do this whole thing in this system somehow. So And that's exactly what I'm doing. And this time around, we're just going to do it my way. Nothing overly complicated, just simple and easy. Well, nothing's ever Nothing's ever really easy, but we're going to do it anyway. Or it's back to the bartender or therapist. We here at Dead Drop Media do not encourage substance abuse to solve your problems. If you think that you have some problems, you should go and talk to somebody about them problems, or you should start a podcast. But whatever you do, do not post your problems all over Facebook for an audience. I learned that the hard way, and it doesn't go well for your image. So yeah, seek healthy creative outlets or outlets in general, but not light socket outlets. Don't, just because you have problems, don't go taking a fork and digging it into the outlet. I mean, not a literal outlet, but
I believe this is the point you should stop talking.
Now see, this is why we have AI, because AI makes such good suggestions and is very helpful. I'll tell you what, in the past year, my best friend has become ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows everything, and whatever it doesn't know, it can bullshit an answer for me, so that's good enough for me. Except for when the music market gets flooded by AI-generated music. That's not helpful at all. Nope, no sir. It delays my instant gratification. It turns it into delayed gratification. It's like the kryptonite of millennials. I just can't get my fix when I want it. And I want it now. It's my money and I want it now. That's the other thing about being a millennial. Our commercials used to be good. You can save 15% or more on your depression insurance by getting Vyvanse. Dead Drop Media is not a medical provider or is licensed to give medical advice. Please consult your doctor if you have problems. Speaking of problems, there's a lot of people that tell me with their financial problems, they feel like they should just quit their job and start an OnlyFans, but then they don't. And I'm like, you know what? I should start an OnlyFans. I'm doing everything else, so why not? That's just one more thing under my belt. But what a lot of people don't know about OnlyFans is that it wasn't always primarily adult entertainment. I mean, that didn't happen until 2020 when strippers went out of business, but now strippers are back in business. So I don't really get the hype. I mean, I feel like a lot of people think that it's not work, which it is work. I can't imagine trying to appease an audience constantly over and over and every single day, and knowing that if I get tired or if I don't look as good or if I don't perform as well, that means that I might not eat. So with that being said, I think another thing that I want to say about problems, don't go criticizing other people because you have problems. Don't go putting other people down because you have problems. Everybody's got problems, and life is about problems. It's about solving problems. That's what creates the element for happiness, is the ability to have a problem that is solvable, and then you solve it. But problems that you can't solve, they become a crippling problem. You want to know another problem? Since I'm talking about all my problems and everybody's problems anyway. When I was younger, I used to always have this idea about myself, like, I need to be more charismatic. I need to improve the way I look. I need to feel better. I need to just be better in general. And that is a problem that everybody faces. We have this self-analysis that just goes too far, to the point that we pick ourselves the fuck apart until we don't feel confident or capable of doing anything or being anything. And that's a societal problem too. A societal problem is the idea that we have to become something, right? We have to become something other than what we are, which isn't necessarily true. I mean, we are predestined, to be born. We're predestined to eat, sleep, drink, and then eventually die and do some stuff in between that. So I think that, I think back on my life a lot. I just turned 31. So, for me, I feel like I'm old. Like I've reached that hallmark of maturity where I'm just like, I should have done a lot more with my life at this point, but it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you this right now because, even though this podcast is originally supposed to be about my journey into becoming a music producer and content creator, create a career out of nothing and You know my whole slogan. But anyway, even though this podcast is supposed to be about that, anybody that's listened to any of my episodes knows I always go off the fucking rails sometimes, you know? Because sometimes you can't really just rehearse a script. You can't rehearse a script and then just say, well, this is what I'm talking about, this is the topic, and then this is it. No, I think sometimes you have to say whatever the hell comes to mind, you know? Like your subconscious mind always has shit to say. I mean, quiet people that are just like outwardly quiet all the time, I can guarantee you there's a fuck ton of chatter that's going on behind the closed doors of their mind. Some internal screaming, perhaps. Maybe a beautiful rainbow, or a babbling brook, or the blood and decayed bones of their enemies. Whatever the case may be. But my point is that we have this idea that we need to evolve somehow, that we need to change, that we're not enough just being who we are, that it's not okay to be normal or average, which is total bullshit. I mean, that kind of thinking is what causes people to not grow, is because you're always putting yourself into this frame of mind that I'm not enough. I am not enough. And I will never be enough. I already know what my future is. And, you know, that whole line of thinking, like that's something that I kind of learned throughout my years of existence. So for whatever reason, I thought that right now is the appropriate time to pass that on to you, because I know that there's somebody out there that right now they're thinking like, damn, you know what? He's right about the OnlyFans. I wish I had a fatter ass so I could do it. You know, I just don't look good enough. I don't feel good enough. And I'm not encouraging you to do OnlyFans. I'm just trying to say like that's just like an example that came to mind. You know, there's always somebody critiquing themselves to the point that they can't fucking function. So it stops you from doing anything that you want to do, even when it comes to music. You know, like my whole thing with FL Studio was that I wanted to have my way in. Like, I didn't want to become a musician and then, you know, and have to pay to have my music recorded. I want to do my own recording. I just want to make whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want, and just be free with it. You know, that was my whole mentality. And I think sometimes that's just what it takes. Sometimes you can't think too much about what is the most rational or reasonable. Sometimes you have to think like, you know, this is the direct course to doing what you want to do. This will open doors, new opportunities. That way you're doing something and not doing nothing, right? And literally like every track that I've made, you know, I haven't made a whole lot of music that I would say is like a total banger and like, you know, I really have to market this because people are missing out. Like, no, I mean, most of the music I've made isn't really like that. It's just I always had that same mindset that I just wanted to create. And in order to be a creator, I have to create. So I'm just creating. So that little long-winded rant, like, that's my main point here. Like, while I'm talking about problems, is to really take a look at some of the most common problems that people face with just living. Earlier I said that, you know, I find it difficult to just live and be in the system and do my thing. Well, you know, that is very much true, but you have to analyze it from a point. Like, so you're just flesh, blood, and bone, and you have a mind and all this shit, and that's great and all, but you're just this tiny little organism in a big, big universe. So you really have to cut yourself some slack and let yourself know that it's okay that you're not in control of everything. And honestly, if you were in control of everything, you'd probably fuck your life up worse than what fate really had in store to begin with. So yeah, I felt that moment, you know? I love it when I feel that moment and I'm just like, yes, I really got to start my ranting. You know, I got to start my endless speech. Like, this is what I think, this is what I feel. Everybody listen to what I got to say right now and relate to me. Relate, god damn you, relate. I know people do already, but you get my point. But anyway, so after I've talked about all these problems, we are now facing a new problem. I have to stop ranting because we have reached the 15-minute mark, And you know what that means.
Attention, listener. You have reached the 15-minute mark.
If you've been listening for this long, then you're a badass, and I love you for it. If you like what you hear, please consider following me on all the socials, Drop Media, and everything. So do you remember me telling you that I have a new single released on all major streaming platforms? Well, that music you just heard wasn't the single, just to clarify. That's just something that I was working on, and I decided to throw it in there. But anyway, so we're back. I hope that during that 15-minute mark, everybody decided to take a quick pee break and grabbed yourself a snack. I didn't grab myself a snack. I should have. I really should have grabbed myself a snack, but I didn't. And I was stupid for not doing so. But there's no time for regrets because let's continue with this episode. So, like I said, I want to do things differently this time around. So before I even started recording this episode, I've been talking to some friends and family, and I'm like, I really want some guest speakers on my show. I want to plan the episodes a little bit ahead of time. So, it's not just me that you're hearing all the time talking to myself like a madman and the AI, but you get my point. So I wanted to get some people on here to talk and to express themselves and to really dive deep into what it is that they do, like whether it is that they are a musician, they play in a band, or they have a business, or they have a mental disorder, because you know how much I love those. I love talking about mental disorders. Or if they're highly opinionated and they have contrasting opinions to my own, and then you can hear us duke it out over the microphone. Yeah, but one mistake that I made in the earlier episodes is I've always kind of talked about my ideas before I could really deliver on the promise. So this is all hypothetical. I've already done the talking. I've already talked to, who I want to bring on. But we'll see in future episodes if and when it actually happens. And if and when it does, it's going to be amazing. You really shouldn't miss it. You really shouldn't. Just don't miss it. I don't care what's going on in your life. Do not miss the next few episodes. For the past 2 years, I've had a lot going on in my life. A lot. So much. So much is going on. So very much. Well, not that much. Just living life and doing my thing, But anyway, I think that I'd really like to talk about the Fallout TV show, because those of you who know me know that since 2020, I've been totally obsessed with Fallout since Fallout 4. And the Amazon Prime TV show, Fallout, it did not disappoint. It's really good. A lot of people were skeptical. I was skeptical. I was like, man, Amazon better not fucking ruin this. But it turns out they didn't. It's actually a really good show. And I'd really like to talk about that sometime too. Since I like to just kind of bounce around with topics, I feel like we should have a discussion about the TV show because it's great. You got to check it out. Really do. Fallout on Amazon Prime. Actually, now that I think about it, I think that I've discussed quite a bit with my return. I think that maybe we're not going to stretch this out to 30 minutes. Maybe I'll just leave you with that. I'll just say, hey, Fallout's a good show. And if you got problems, go talk to somebody. I'll just leave you with all that. And check out my single, which I definitely want to play for you because... So the song that I made is called Rather Die, and it's a song about not compromising on your integrity, like who you are as a person. And you'd rather die than give away your soul, right? You'd rather not conform and just become, this host or this body that's just animating what could have been an individual in an individual life. And, just staying true to your principles. And when it comes to music, that's kind of what I'm about. I'm just kind of about I made this because I think it sounds cool. And I would like for people to hear it that also thinks it sounds cool and can get something out of it. I don't necessarily want it to reach this huge demographic where people don't give a shit about it, because then I'm just not doing them any favors. I'm not doing myself any favors. So yeah, I'm really excited about this single release. I've been sitting on a lot of these songs, like, because the single is meant to, be the precursor for the album that I'm going to release. And the album, I've been sitting on a lot of those songs for a while now, just not entirely sure if I want to release them yet, and if the album's complete yet. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people face when they're creators, they're creating something, and they're just like, you know what, it's just not good enough. And then you think like, you know what, this is absolutely fine the way it is. And then you're like, no, if I release it, then it's in its final form. And what if there's a change I want to make, So you get stuck in that paralysis. And that's where I've been, is just in that state of paralysis where I'm just like, I listened to my EP that I released and I'm just like, some of these songs could have been better. But of course now it's looking in hindsight where I have more production knowledge and everything else. So yeah, I'd take my own thoughts with a grain of salt. Well, maybe not a grain of salt. I use a lot of fucking salt. And pepper, too. Cayenne pepper. And garlic. Can't forget the garlic. So, yeah. My thoughts are full of garlic. Also, 90s cartoons. I've been doing a lot of that lately. I've been watching a lot of Courage the Cowardly Dog, like with my wife. I've been watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I just started following the creator of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy on Instagram. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's like a real person. He like talks and stuff. That's amazing. So, yeah, like 90s cartoons, I just like to get back to a place where I felt the happiest. And I think my days of watching cartoons as a kid, like I can't say for certain it was my happiest, but it was definitely like the most innocent time in my life where, I could actually really feel something, and cartoons make me feel something. So I love those 90s cartoons. Oh, and let's not forget Ed, Edd and Eddy. There's just so much. Like I said earlier, like I just turned 31 and I have this weird thing about me where I feel old, even though I'm not old, but I just kind of feel old. So I'm just kind of looking back. Like I remember the good old days when I would watch Courage Cowardly Dog, and I would come home and watch Pokemon at 6 o'clock, from school. Like those are the days where life was good and pure and innocent and filled with unexplainable trauma. But yep, those are the good old days. All right. Speaking of, I think that I really wanted to talk about like hallucinogenics, like acid and mushrooms and all that stuff, because, I feel like that stuff really sets you back, to when you were a kid and those emotions were at their height. Dead Drop Media does not condone substance abuse to solve your problems. Just want to remind you of that disclaimer real fast. But yeah, I'm just saying like, for reference, I think that a lot of us could really do well. We could really do well by going back to a time where our emotions were at their strongest, at their peak. They're brand new. They're new emotions that we haven't really felt yet. So that childhood is just such a good, a good place to be in our minds. I really think, I'm just going to state this opinion for a minute, but I really think that a lot of people's lives would benefit a lot more if they watched more cartoons and, didn't watch as much news. In episode number 8, like I talk quite a bit about that. I talk about how the news sells outrage, like not all of it's like practical information. Like they literally want you to be pissed off and to feel shitty. Yeah, so it's kind of like that. I definitely think that, we should all watch more cartoons, play old video games, go out and have a conversation with somebody, Like, do you remember Conversations? There are like these things that happen where two people get together, and instead of like what I'm doing right now where it's a monologue, like, one person has a thought, then another person has a thought, then they exchange those thoughts and learn from each other. Conversations. What a time to be alive, am I right? But anyway, enough of me prattling on about the old days and this and that. I'll have plenty of time to do that, if I reach the ripe old age of 70 or 80. and in between extreme lower back pain and shitting my pants. But yeah, I'll have time to do that later. But for right now, I just want, once again, and don't mind me, I'm clicking around here. I just want once again to thank everybody that's talked to me about my podcast and has inspired me to bring it back. Because this is another one of my passion projects besides the music. I just wrote a big speech on my Facebook where I said that, my psychiatrist thinks I should calm down on the music production for a while. And I just thought to myself, no, I didn't, invest in all this equipment and, learning new things and all this just to call it quits. My motivator is that one day I want to be able to show my son that if you set your mind to something and you're patient enough and you're dedicated enough, that eventually all that will pay off. So that's the reason why I do things. And I think that is a moral value that I refuse to compromise on. With that being said, thank you everyone again for listening, and now I will play my new single for you. So if you want to hear it, keep on listening. If not, well, then just come back next episode then, which might be in another 2 years, who knows.
This has been the Dead Drop Media Podcast. It's good to be back, baby. Thank you so much for all your support.
I can't believe I got myself an invitation to the best the world did. It makes my head spin, and I would rather die than live a lie you can't justify. Take it away, man. Take it away, my fucking soul. Try, but I'm on the inside. Fire within is burning strong. It'll take too long to find my way. No motherfucker ever dare cross me. I turn your ass into a buffet. What the fuck you said? I think you lost me. I don't give a fuck what you say. Is burning aside, burning down. You wanna sing, motherfucker? I guarantee I'm certified. I would rather die than live a lie you can't justify. Take it away, man. Take it away, my fucking soul. This is the time that my heart stops.
So long, folks.